don't remember a whole lot of life before I started stuttering. It really affected my social life. There were so many things that I thought about doing, so many things that I wanted to do. It made me really anxious. I was always thinking about, what people thought of me. Because people who don't stutter, they have some really incorrect perception of us because they just don't understand it. And it's not something that's talked about a lot. So I was always worried about what people thought of me. My name is Esther, and I'm from the Midwest United States in Ohio. I'm 18 years old, and I'm currently in my third year of college. I'm majoring in social work, and I'm not 100% sure what I want to do with my degree yet, because it's a really broad field, but some different areas that interest me are juvenile detention, domestic violence, and mental health counseling. So now that you know a little about me, I want to share a little about my background with stuttering. My mom said that I started stuttering around the time I was probably 3 years old. I don't remember a whole lot of life before I started stuttering. And I remember certain periods where it got better or got worse, but it was always a part of my life. My mom, like you mentioned, also stuttered, doesn't anymore. And I have 6 younger siblings, and they all stuttered to a certain extent throughout their childhood. Some were more, some were less, and a lot of them just kind of outgrew it or dealt with it on their own to the point that they could speak normally, they were fluent. But for some of us, including myself, it was still something that I struggled with going into college. And I wanted to address it for a long time, but I really wasn't sure how to do that. And I think majoring in social work, I realized that a huge part of my future job is working with people. And a big part of working with people is being able to communicate with them clearly. So I think this is one of the things that really motivated me to look for options to help me stop stuttering. And then also, it really affected my social life. I had some great friends. I really did. I have amazing people in my life, and they never mentioned my stutter. They never made it awkward or uncomfortable for me. But it was still hard because there were so many things that I thought about doing, so many things that I wanted to do. I love people, and I'm the kind of person who would just go up and talk to a random stranger if I could, just try to make somebody's day better. Those are the things I want to do, but my stutter held me back from doing some of that. And it made me really anxious because I was always thinking about, what people thought of me. Because people who don't stutter, they have some really incorrect perceptions of us because they just don't understand it. And it's not something that's talked about a lot. So I was always worried about what people thought of me. And college was really the first time that I thought a lot about my stutter. Everyone in my family, except for my dad, had stuttered at one point or another. And because I was homeschooled, these were the people that I spent every day with, most of my time with. And so it just became kind of normal and not something that anyone really questioned. But when I was in college, it just kind of hit me like how much it affected my social life, how much it affected my well-being, and it really became something that I wanted to work on. I kind of came up with some strategies for how to deal with it on my own, which I later learned were some of Coach Lee's crutches. I would substitute easier words for hard words. I could talk faster, talk with more passion, but none of these things were nearly enough on their own. I still struggled, and it was still something that I was anxious about. I think that was the hardest part for me, was just always being anxious about it. that was worse than the stuttering itself. But my mom found Coach Lee's book while researching different options for helping the people in our family who still stuttered. And I really resonated with the book because other books I had read before or other resources were from people who had never struggled with stuttering themselves. And so I felt like I kind of couldn't trust their advice because they didn't know what it was like. They had never been in my shoes and they hadn't worked through it themselves. But Coach Lee's book, because he did stutter in the past and he was able to overcome that, was something that I was really interested in. And also just the fact that I recognized some of my own strategies as his crutches made me really eager to learn the rest of the crutches. So my family and I, we learned the crutches together. We practiced them every day. We met with Coach Lee on a weekly basis to talk about our different strengths and weaknesses and how we were improving with stuttering and areas that we still needed to grow. We also did mind training every day. We came up with a list of affirmations that we repeated to ourselves every day. And that was something that was really helpful because it really cemented the idea in my mind, I guess, that I could be fluent. But I think the thing from the program that was more impactful than even all of that was the part of the program that seemed the most simple to me at first, which was reading every day for an hour out loud. I never thought that that would have so much of an impact on my speech, but I think it really did. Because when I read out loud to myself, I didn't stutter. Even when I was at the worst points of my speech with others, when I was alone reading out loud, I was fluent. And so I think hearing that fluency and getting that idea in my brain that I could be fluent was just so helpful. It seemed tedious at first to read out loud for that long, but it was really helpful and I grew to actually really enjoy it. After just a few months of doing Coach Lee's program, my mom, my siblings, and I had all stopped stuttering. And I think our lives have improved a lot because of it. Starting this school year, I was so much more confident than I had been in years before. And even the simplest things, like just talking to my friends, were so much easier. I'm doing a lot more classes now for my major, and a lot of my classes have a lot of public speaking. I remember one week when I had a 60-minute presentation on Monday, a 90-minute thing on Tuesday, and then another 60-minute presentation on Wednesday. And those are things that I would have been terrified of if I was still stuttering. But because I had overcome my stutter, they were things that I was actually able to enjoy. I put a lot of effort into those presentations, and I really found it enjoyable to be able to teach my fellow classmates things about our field. It was really, really cool. And I'm also in an internship right now for social work at an after-school program, and I get to work with the counselors in the schools too. It's really cool. But I've just really appreciated being able to communicate clearly with the people that I work with. I think a lot of people take that for granted, but for people who stutter or for people who have stuttered in the past, that's never something that we take for granted because we recognize how much being able to communicate clearly really means. So for those of you who still stutter, I would encourage you that you can beat this. This is not something that you have to struggle with the rest of your life. It's not something that has to hold you back. It's something that you can overcome, and you have the power to do that. You are the only person who is able to beat stuttering. Coach Lee can help you. Other people in your life can help you, but it is ultimately up to you to put in the work, to do well, and to achieve things in your life. And for people who have stopped stuttering, I want to encourage you that your journey doesn't stop here. You should be in a constant quest to improve your speech. And every day you can make your speech a little bit better. And I know for myself, even after I stopped stuttering, there was a lot of anxiety that was still there. And that is also something that you can address. you can change your mindset and you can continue to seek out opportunities that will help you grow and help you to practice fluent speech. And that will make a huge difference in your life. So I'm very thankful for Coach Lee. I'm thankful for this program. And I'm thankful for the ways that addressing my stutter has made me a better person and helped me to achieve more in my life.